Today we're heading to the hot and humid streets and oh dear. That's a good start, isn't it? Today we're heading to the hot and humid streets of 1950s Saigon to talk about a book that I finished last week and the main group read for this year's Dr. November. It is, of course, Graham Greene's wonderful novel, The Quiet American. It's a slim novel, not particularly big, is it? It's a slim novel, but it packs a punch. It probably packs in more tension, political intrigue, and heartache, heartbreak than a lot of epics 3 times its size. Hello everybody, welcome to and welcome back to my channel, Book Time with Elvis with me, Mark. And yes, it's a wonderful, wonderful novel. Some have even said it's the perfect novel, although I'm not sure I really agree with that. It's something that's very, very hard to achieve. I'm not really sure I can think of one. It might be an interesting future video to talk about the perfect novel and if it really exists. I can see why some people, of course, really like it. I really like it, but I mean, the perfect novel is an epithet I probably wouldn't bestow very lightly. And as I say, as much as I even love things like Three Men in a Boat, I'm not sure I'd even call it the perfect novel, and certainly I'm sure you guys wouldn't do that anyway. So what about this book? Well, it's set in the First Indochina War, in the period of colonial Indochina, where the French, having just regained their possessions in Indochina, which of course today are 3 countries of Vietnam, Cambodia and Laos, after the Japanese have been driven out, and the communists of course are trying to keep the French out. And yes, it's a very delicate situation, and it should have been one left basically between the French and the Vietnamese, and then of course ultimately just between the Vietnamese. But no, other people of course have to get involved. The novel follows Thomas Fowler, a weary British journalist, and a young American called Alden Pyle, who is ostensibly an aid worker but actually really works for the CIA. I can't remember if it's actually the CIA in that time yet, or whether it went under a different name, but yes, he's attached to the economic aid mission, and he's there to help out with some aid work, but that is of course just a cover. He's really heavily involved in the shadowy world of US intelligence in Southeast Asia. Now, Fowler has a girlfriend called Fong, and Pyle falls in love with her, and that of course makes things rather delicate and difficult for their blossoming friendship. Now, Fong is a beautiful young Vietnamese woman. Should she stay with the elderly and slightly cold Thomas Fowler, or should she go with the rather, I don't know if pragmatic's the right word, but at least young and available Alden Pyle? Well, that you'll have to make up your mind when and if you read the book. The book, of course, starts off with a murder, and that is the murder of Pyle. Ooh. But who did it? Well, you'll have to wait and see, of course, and it's certainly not something I'm going to give away. But the book does follow all the political machinations going on at the time, and this love triangle between those 3 people. Now, of course, it quickly becomes apparent that it's something much deeper than just a normal love triangle. It is an allegory of colonialism, innocence, and the moral cost of foreign interference. Now, you can look at Fong, I think, as not just the love interest in the book. She is the symbolic heart of the novel. Greene uses her to mirror Vietnam itself, in the fact that she's desired, fought over, and spoken for by outsiders. Fowler, the cynical Brit, represents the fading colonial powers, which of course would be France, but Graham Greene wasn't going to make a Frenchman the hero of his novel, was he? He wants to keep Fong for himself, but without any real commitment, because of course he's shackled by the bonds of his wife's religion into marriage that she will not grant him a divorce. Pyle, as I've said, is already available and ready to go, and he wants to save her, in inverted commas, convinced he knows best. Again, very much mirroring America's intentions towards Vietnam once the French leave. Neither man truly listens to her and what she wants, just as neither power, of course, in Vietnam listens to what the Vietnamese people want. And her silence in the novel speaks volumes. It says everything about how the West viewed the East at the time as something to be saved or possessed rather than being understood. Now, what makes The Quiet American so brilliant is, of course, its moral tension. Fowler despises Pyle's naivete, yet his own cynicism is a form of cowardice. Pyle's innocence, though, is far more dangerous, and he is directly or indirectly responsible for tens of deaths throughout the book. And he may be a quiet American, but he is certainly not a benign one. He believes that he can create this third force, a middle path between communism and colonialism, and he's blind and blinded by his idealism that leads to real bloodshed. Greene forces us to ask, is it better to be cynical and complicit, or idealistic and destructive? And that is a big theme throughout the book as well, is that Thomas Fowler refuses to take sides on almost anything until he's absolutely forced to by the end. And I can't say why, because I don't want to give it away. But it does leave us wondering, I can say, as to whether or not justice has been done, or if one more innocent life has been sacrificed to expediency. The title is a little bit ironic. I mean, who ever heard of A Quiet American? I'm only kidding, guys, you know me. Okay, no, but it is a little bit, because Pyle is quiet, but he's only quiet really on the surface. He's polite, well-meaning, and utterly deaf and insensitive to the absolute chaos he causes in Saigon and around Vietnam, to the places he visits. I think Greene was warning against what he called the innocent killer, those who cause suffering out of certainty rather than malice. So he's very dangerous because he is so convinced that he's right. And it's not because he hates or dislikes the Vietnamese people, but he is convinced he knows what's best for them. And in some ways, that is very, very dangerous. And it's chilling, especially in this day and age, as to how modern that feels. We can see the ghost of Pyle in every intervention later, be it things like Vietnam, later on, of course, Iraq, Afghanistan, and add any other conflict that you might wish to into that. So good intentions are just not enough. Underneath the politics, though, Greene's Catholic conscience beats hard, of course. He is obsessed with this idea of sin. It is very interesting that Thomas Fowler himself is an atheist, or at least agnostic, and it is his wife who shackles him to the marriage he doesn't want to be in. Fowler, like a lot of Greene's character, continues still to wrestle with this concept of sin and guilt, and the question over whether doing wrong for the right reason can ever be justified. It is a moral thriller disguised as a love story, or maybe it could be the other way round. Now, is it a book for Dr. November? Yes, because although it is not an espionage thriller, espionage is an important theme throughout the book, because of course it is what Pyle is doing, and it leads to the resolution of the book, if you like. It causes Pyle's death. It causes the fact that Phong will still be shackled to this old colonial power and other things as well. So I do think, while not explicitly an espionage thriller, it is still a book that contains espionage. It is literary fiction, as people point out, and I don't know why they always seem to want to point it out at the expense of it being an espionage thriller, because I just don't see how, or an espionage book, because I don't see why the two things have to be mutually exclusive. But either way, it doesn't matter really. It has spies in it, and that's good enough for me. Technically, the book is very well written. Greene's prose is economical. His pacing is perfect. It reads like journalism, which is good, because that is what Fowler is doing. It does also feel somewhat poetic, which is nice as well, I can say. So is The Quiet American a perfect novel? No, of course it isn't. But it is very, very well balanced, politically, morally, and humanly, or on the human aspect. It feels quite complete in those ways, but it isn't flawless because of, and this is a very good point, a very dear friend of mine pointed out to me as she's reading the book, that Fong's voice remains, well, Fong, the character, remains pretty much voiceless. That is powerful, I think, in its symbolism, but it is also perhaps a notation to the novel. We never hear her inner voice, and that absence, while thematically, I think, justified, does keep the book away from achieving any kind of emotional perfection. And perhaps that's just the way that Greene intended it. He wanted that unease. He wanted that bruise you keep pressing because it hurts and fascinates you at the same time. And I think he's also in keeping with, one, the idea that if Fong is a mirror of Vietnam and French Indochina, then he's done it and achieved exactly what he set out to do, because, you know, what say were the Vietnamese having in their own future at that point anyway, you know? So, yes, The Quiet American is a wonderful book. A wonderful, wonderful book, a short book, and as I said, it packs a punch. If you've read it, let me know in the comments down below what you thought about it, and let me know what else you've been reading for Dr. No-vember or anything else. And if you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing. I will be most grateful. Until next time, everybody, see you soon. All the best. Cheerio.